So guys, after discussing about cardiogenic shock, now we shall discuss about hypovolemic shock. So let's get started. Hypovolemic shock. So this is quite a short topic. So hypovolemic shock can be caused. The causes of the hypovolemic shock are as follows. The hypovolemic shock can be caused due to acute hemorrhage. Yes or no? The hemorrhage will lead to loss of fluid and loss of fluid, loss of blood, that will cause hypovolemia. So it will cause finally it will lead to hypovolemic shock. Okay. Then the causes are very simple, as you can figure out by knowing the name, that hypovolemic shock. Other cause is dehydration due to recurrent vomiting, and severe diarrhea. In case of recurrent vomiting and severe diarrhea, there is there is excessive loss of fluid. So that will decrease the volume of the intravascular fluid, leading to hypovolemic shock. So this is also very obvious, very predictable. The next cause is burns. So you know that burns can cause hypovolemic shock, and acute pancreatitis and excessive use of diuretics. So you may remember, what does antidiuretic hormone do? It helps to retain water. Antidiuretic hormones helps to retain water from the tubules, renal tubules, and it is released during when the body lacks water. So excessive use of diuretics will suppress the retention of water and will increase the loss of fluids from the body, which may cause to hypovolemic shock. Okay, now this much in the hypovolemic shock. Now we shall move towards shock associated with systemic inflammation. Okay, so the next type is shock associated with systemic inflammation. So let's get into it. This shock associated with systemic inflammation can be triggered by microbial or non-microbial causes. It can be triggered by both microbial or non-microbial causes. What happens is that the massive outpouring of the inflammatory mediators, cytokines, the excessive or massive outpouring of these inflammatory mediators causes arteriolar vasodilation, vascular leakage by increasing the permeability, and this vascular leakage due to increase in permeability, as we discussed earlier, may cause edema, may cause venous pooling of the blood, and all these factors, all these events will finally lead to tissue hypoperfusion, yes, and which may lead to cellular hypoxia, organ dysfunction, metabolic derangement, and which may terminate as organ failure. Okay, so let's write the points. Can be triggered by both microbial and non-microbial causes. Massive outpouring of inflammatory mediators causes arteriolar vasodilation vascular leakage. We discussed earlier at this point, so I am writing fast. Due to vascular leakage due to increased permeability. Okay, I hope this is clear to you. Increased permeability, and we know even we discussed while discussing about edema that increase in vascular permeability may cause edema due to leakage of the fluids. So may cause edema, venous pooling of the blood, venous pooling of the blood is contributed by arterial vasodilation. Vascular leakage may cause edema, and all these events finally lead to, so all these events finally lead to decreased tissue perfusion. Okay, so don't get confused between these arrow. Lead to decreased tissue perfusion. Okay, all right. Then this tissue perfusion and cellular hypoxia. Okay, leads to metabolic derangement, and organ dysfunction. And these which may finally lead to or persistence of these events when there is persistent arterial vasodilation or tissue perfusion, decreased tissue perfusion and cellular hypoxia. This persistence will cause irreversible cell injury and organ failure. Okay, persistence may cause or is equals to persistence. I am writing in short form. So persistence may cause irreversible cell injury and even organ failure. Okay, clear about this? Okay. Persistence of these activities causes irreversible cell injury and organ failure. Okay. So this completes the major cause or the common types of shock, that is cardiogenic shock, hypovolemic shock, and shock associated with systemic inflammation. Now we have two very short or very less common types of shock, that is neurogenic shock and anaphylactic shock. After that we shall discuss about the septic shock, which is a long topic. So I will cover the neurogenic shock and anaphylactic shock in this part. Will be a bit congested, so don't mind guys, please. Okay, so I'll make a table instead. It is not a difference, this is not difference or a comparative way to learn, but just for convenience I made the table. This is anaphylactic and this is neurogenic. All right. Okay, neurogenic and anaphylactic shock. So now let's write what happens or what causes them. Neurogenic shock is generally due to spinal cord injury or anesthetic accident. Okay, so let's write spinal cord injury or anesthetic accident. So spinal cord injury or anesthetic accident causes it. Okay, clear? Okay, now anaphylactic shock is due to IgE, immunoglobulin IgE mediated hypersensitivity. We'll discuss about hypersensitivity, type 1, type 2, type 3 reactions while discussing about immunity. For just for now, it is a hypersensitivity is an inflammatory type of inflammatory response. So let's write anaphylactic shock due to IgE, immunoglobulin is a type of immunoglobulin IgE mediated hypersensitivity. Okay, so I hope we are clear about the common and less common types of shock, and this is hypovolemic shock associated with systemic inflammation, and this is neurogenic shock. Okay, neurogenic shock and anaphylactic shock. So if you are not able to see this now, I guess you will be able to see neurogenic, anaphylactic. So this completes the types of shock. In the next video we shall discuss about septic shock, pathogenesis of septic shock. See you in the next video guys.